quite a journey from here to there, Charles, but it's Sunday, and I'm with Charles.
It's good to be here, Jason, and good to talk about one of our least favorite subjects, con men.
Well,
and hats off to the art department for another great poster. I mean, the art department was staying true to the form of the poster and only putting 3 people there, but in truth, you could probably do a Where's Waldo poster.
Yeah, all
the number
DC.
of con men around the world.
Right.
You know, starting with this stupid-ass World Economic shit show. What's wrong?
No, Klaus Schwab, exactly.
Yeah, Klaus Anal Schwab, who is good to talk about one of our least favorite subjects. And this long-standing program, I just saw some squib online and about it. It was started in 1971, so this is 51 years of seeding the world with these rapacious control freak idiots who are now pretending to run countries that used to be, frankly, serious countries. Canada used to be a serious country, and now it's this
serious disaster.
It's a fascist regime.
So they're going to have blood effects this year? You said you saw squibs.
But what is an interesting contrast, you have Canada.
Sorry, real quick, Charles.
Sure.
The social media part of it, they've gotten rid of the Twitter link. They're telling you about the whatever hashtag they're going to be talking about, but they have links for Instagram and Facebook, but they are basically shunning Twitter.
Honestly, they have these new ways of canceling people on LinkedIn and the internet and other ways. Anybody who has been who attended the World Economic Forum more than once after, I would say, 2008 is somebody I want nothing to do with.
Yeah.
Just unless they repent and recant the errors of their ways and say, look, I was taken in, I wasn't thinking clearly.
Right.
But if you're going to defend that conclave of witches and warlocks pretending that they know anything about economics and politics, stay away from me. Go hang out with your main man, Satan. I'm not interested.
People often point out to me that the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences, NATAS, is Satan spelled backwards.
That's right.
But Charles, what did you think about the World Economic Forum's decision to just put on their own webpage that Kevin McCarthy was the Speaker of the House before he had won the vote?
I think the World Economic Forum is a disgrace, and no serious person wants there to be a World Economic Forum. I mean, do we need that? Do we need the UN and that? Do we need all these, G7, G8, G20, and the World Health Organization? All these things are just excuses. They're window dressing to allow the control freaks, the Bill Gateses, the Mike Bloombergs and others, George Soros, to control the accreditation of people, of thoughts, of projects. I mean, this is a group that now wants you to eat insects, and the one thing we're not going to see in that website is the actual,
menu there?
The menu, and the wine list.
Serving?
I doubt it's caterpillars. It's probably a lot of filet mignon and a lot of caviar.
A lot of vegan food at that, though.
Maybe, but but not insects.
No, definitely not. It's not vegan insects. But Charles, a lot of our viewers in the chat are wishing you an early happy birthday.
Oh, that's very nice of you all. Thank you. It's remarkable that
29, I know.
No, I was going to say I created an informal club called the 40 Club, which you're a member of now. And once you turn 40, every birthday you turn 40 again.
Jay-Z has the 40-40 Club, which we've walked by a few times.
Yeah, this is a club so exclusive, it's impossible to find it.
I like it.
But thank you to the viewers.
We're getting a weird bit of static here, but what do you think of that thing?
That's probably where they're growing the insects that Schwab wants to feed us.
That's someone's idea of art, obviously. That's a deliberately I don't even know if people can see that. It looks like a stick.
It looks to me, is it some kind of, you see that, is that a light or is that like the cap of a tank? Like there's something underneath here? Or
I think that those are skylights or something.
Like what are those are lights?
Oh, those are lights, yeah. I don't know what they have going on. They always have all kinds of installations here.
Right. Yeah, that's one semi-human form, and there's
Oh,
another
yeah.
form, and there's another form.
Right.
And probably, the artist behind this was after an extensive competition where people enter with different ideas. The foundation that's involved with this probably decided to employ one of the director's, relatives and pay some idiot, $1 million for this. But
I could picture the meeting now, Charles. Mr. Ortel, you are a patron of the arts. I have a breakthrough concept. This is going to be tremendously valuable. 3-dimensional stick figures.
yeah, it's amazing.
It's like, but wait a minute.
Where'd you come up with that?
It's still 2-dimensional.
Yeah.
No. You don't understand.
Right. Well, what are your credentials? Well, my most famous exhibit is on parade around New York City and in major metropolitan areas worldwide. It's called Homage to Garbage.
Now, I'm telling you, Charles, this guy, he's the Picasso of rebar. You've never seen anything like it. You're going to want to be in on this.
Sounds
it's just
good.
$1 million for you.
Yeah.
But the payback is unbelievable.
It's huge.
No downside. This can't miss. It's not going to go down, Charles. Come on, that'd be ridiculous. 70,000 is not going to turn into 12. That'd be stupid.
It's like GE's reverse stock split.
Yeah.
Right. It's following the GE model. Yeah. Well, so this World Economic Forum, the festivities begin Davos time on the 16th, which is Martin Luther King's birthday celebration this coming Monday. And
We just got a mouthful of watermelon vape. Did you smell that?
try not to, but
I don't know. People who are under 30 right now might be the stupidest people to ever occupy.
I think it's a barbell, Jason. You got that cohort, and you got Joe Biden and up, Mitch McConnell, Joe Biden, Dianne Feinstein. These people are.
Is she still going to be in Congress, or is she dead yet?
I think she's hanging around with Uncle Fester, and just like a vegetable.
Just embalm her and leave her there,
No.
put her in that sculpture room?
I think she's been there for a while. I mean,
Yeah.
she's the one. What isn't she the one? Or was it her colleague Barbara Boxer who told some military guy, "My title is senator. I've earned. Address me as senator."
What a...
And I would have said, "Okay, Senator, bitch."
Now you're on the ground. Title is injured.
Yeah. Well, she's out of the Senate, thankfully.
But you know that painting they have on the ceiling? It's like the ascension of... There's some word for it that's escaping me right now. The deifying of somebody. It's a weird, semi-religious painting of like George Washington and
Oh, right, that famous painting.
like going up into the heavens and everything. And
Right.
It's just bizarre.
Right. Well, and then they have that other famous oil painting of the interior of a sewage reclamation plant, and that's where Joe Biden's headed. Yeah. Toilet to sewage reclamation plant pathways. But
Now,
go ahead.
there were a bunch of other things, though, that you wanted to talk about. Paul Sperry is pissed off that Adam Schiff was telling Twitter to kick him off because he was saying too much stuff about the whistleblower, and he basically knew Adam Schiff's stupid plan that I think was created at Brookings that created that whole... Because Danchenko was at Brookings, wasn't he?
I forget. Let's do the. Let's tease what we'll do next, so we'll both remember it. But we've got to contrast the Hillary Clinton anointment as professor of international and political affairs or whatever, societal affairs. We'll contrast that with a famous television show
How to
in a
destroy
bit.
everything?
No, we'll get to that. But on Sperry, I admire his work. I mean, he does very thorough work. As I think we mentioned before, he's an actual journalist who's going to call up people and tell them he's working on a story and he'd like a reaction. Let's just stop here for a second. Like a reaction, and give the target or the subject of the story a chance to react. And and he likes to do on the one hand, on the other hand kind of articles. But they're very good and groundbreaking. And in this case, last week he teased a story. He said there's something major going to come out, and it came out in the New York Post, and you read it, and I read it, and it revolves around and with the benefit of hindsight, now that we know that the FBI was basically interfering with
Owning Twitter.
with the manufactured image that the public who read saw in the run up to the 2020 election and many other contests around the world. Now that we know that, we need to go back in, and also now that we know that in Pelosi's disgusting House of Representatives, there was no ability to vacate the chair, so that she had ironclad control.
What do you mean?
Yeah, that's why the conservatives wanted to put back at first this rule that had been in place for 100 years.
How can she get rid of that?
Because she just the swamp controlled, and they just.
What is with this that people just?
No, she had a majority. She had a clear majority, so she was able to do what she wanted.
That's crazy.
And so she ran the House, but she was Speaker the second time, on a basis where nobody had any authority really, other than her and the Gang of Eight.
Wow.
The 4 in the House and the 4 in the Senate. So everything else was just window dressing, and nobody in the journalism world with credibility put together a bipartisan group to say, now wait a minute, this is bullshit. We're supposed to regulate this and expose this. We're not covering this crap. If you're not going to actually follow the Constitution, we're not going to your press conferences. We're not going to interview you. You do what you want, but we're going to focus on critics of the administration, not the administration. They didn't do that, and they fell for the approach that you saw, I think, on the coronation of Kevin McCarthy.
Yeah.
I'm sure when we see the messages, if we ever do, McCarthy made it known that he was going to win, and that he was going to severely punish anybody who stopped him from winning after he won. And
so what's going to happen to Matt Gaetz now?
We'll see, because that's. But before we get into that, let's talk about that. But on Sperry, I remember, there was a time when whistleblowers were venerated. Now you blow the whistle, you go direct to the Shitholi.
If it's a real whistleblower.
Yeah. Or you're in what's that, Broadmarsh prison and.
Yeah, exactly. Jail, dead, or broke, or all of the above.
Yeah.
Right.
So I found it incredibly suspicious, the timing.
Right.
And we can use the name because it's published in the Post now.
I think we shouldn't, because YouTube will still say, goodbye.
Anyway, it's in that story. People can see it so long as it's still up there.
He loves caramello.
Yeah.
The candy.
That's right. And there's a cigarette named after him too, I think. Spelled with a K rather than a C. But anyway, cigarillo. So, the whole way in which that happened, this guy who blew the whistle on whatever supposedly happened vis-a-vis Ukraine was not in the room. He doesn't know what actually happened. Did
he blow the whistle, or Adam Schiff?
No, he worked with Adam Schiff, with somebody on the staff
and they lied about that.
And they lied all over that.
But they said they hadn't spoken to him.
Which is bullshit. They coached him.
Later.
They coached him. The whole thing was inserted, and that is a complete. People talk about, Kamala Harris, who when she's not busy flying to Paris to get cookware or cooking for her friends, is fond of bleating about the threats posed to, quote, our democracy. How is it not a tremendous threat to democracy to have the Schiff and his ilk
throwing reporters off of Twitter?
Well, before that, selling and fomenting a false narrative that the Trump team was in league with Russia when they knew it wasn't. They knew it was the case. And then at every turn, lying to the press, suppressing critics, kicking people like Sperry off the internet. This is,
and me.
And you, suppressing our output on Twitter and other things. You can't abide that if you're like your principal business is journalism, mine is not. But if I'm running the New York Times or what once
they
was,
love it.
No, they shouldn't love it because it's fucking stupid. That's why their circulation is down. That's one of the reasons.
It's another one of these things, Charles, where the reason I'm so frustrated with the NYPD is because I had the wrong idea as to what it's supposed to do. I thought the function was to prevent crime and arrest people
No, no.
after they do crime.
No.
But that's wrong. And
No.
if we think that the New York Times function is to actually report news, we're going to be disappointed. It's just an apparatchik of this entire bureaucratic steady state that is a, neo-fascist, authoritarian, technocratic construct that we're only just now beginning to learn about.
Right. Yeah, I think it's like we probably should break apart, and I'm guessing somebody's done this, the elements of this type of a scam. And I think it starts with, you identify who are the people you need to make the scam work.
Yep.
Then you figure out what are they afraid of and what will they settle for by way of a bribe. Mm-hmm. And then you offer them something better, that sounds too good to be true. And you implicate them in criminal activity.
Right.
And then when you want to broaden it, you explain, this is why you're going to help us here.
Exactly.
Because you're already guilty.
And they're like,
okay.
oh,
All right.
keep this big fancy house and all this money, or become brave now and go to jail. Okay.
Right. And if it's Donald Trump, what you do is a minor thing. If he wipes his nose and puts the pocket square back in his jacket, and there's
Like Tom Lipscomb?
exactly. I wasn't going to bring that up, but like somebody we know, that's the subject of 5 continuous days of television reporting.
Yeah.
He probably instigated the pandemic by that
That's
act.
COVID, right?
And remember when he was on a hot day, and I don't know the last time you've had a brand new pair or a resold pair of expensive leather shoes.
Never for me, but Trump was walking down some AstroTurf or something.
Yeah, and I learned the hard way as a kid because that's what I would wear. I mean, those things are so slippery when you first...
Smart way to make shoes.
No, it is. They last a long time if you can get through the first week.
Yeah, in the hospital, in the bed.
Actually, before I went on my trip, I had this pair of shoes that actually my mother got for me a long time ago that are quite nice, but they needed to be resold, and I did that, and I nearly took them with me on the trip, and I said, you know what, that's I'm going to pull a Joe Biden, I'm going to fall up the stairs going.
Right.
Didn't do that.
Speaking of old items, I was wearing a T-shirt just sitting around, typing legal documents as I often do. There's an NYU shirt, and I realized this T-shirt is 32 years old. It's amazing that it's still in. I don't wear it out or anything.
You just stands up straight. You don't even need to put in the.
It's washed every time I wear it. It's a little tattered.
Is anything left of it?
Yeah, it's a little. No, that's what I'm saying. It's surprising. Like, it's honestly the best value of anything I got out of NYU.
Did you have to pay for it, or was it like?
I'm sure I got it. I seem to remember getting it at the NYU bookstore one of the first days I was there. I was like, yeah, NYU, I need a T-shirt.
Right.
You get it, and now I just wash it 60,000 times and keep wearing it.
So Paul Sperry, the thrust of that article is that everybody in America, not just him, not just he, should be furious that a sitting congressman who is now aspiring to be a senator in California, it is rumored, once Feinstein admits that people admit that she's dead, and stop hiding her in the closet, with Lindsey Graham's
That's
buddies.
Obviously the plan for Schiff.
Yeah, of course. So
Sperry mentions that in the article.
Right, exactly. And so that somebody in Congress, through his staffer most likely, would have the audacity to do that, to then call up Real Clear Politics, his employer, and start threatening them.
I know. But this is how they roll. This is exactly what Adam Sharp was trying to do to me, except he's not in Congress. So he figures, all right, let's do something to pressure people to get, it's clear. It's so obvious. And what's going to be happening, I don't want to talk about it. But anyway.
So the Sperry article is quite significant. I think there's going to be more to it. Before we forget, and I'm getting, as people congratulated me, older each year, and it gets tougher to remember all the details that we had. Oh my God.
What?
This music.
Oh wow. But look at that, Charles. Bull.
Yeah. Amazing Grace on a Chinese whatever.
Noise.
What is that thing called, that musical instrument?
It
really sounds to me like a cat
Is
screaming.
It a mandolin?
No.
Is it a Mandalorian?
But I mean,
it's a woman DeLorean.
It's just That guy, he used to play, it's fitting that he play next to, he's on the fiddle next to Diddle Island.
Exactly. Fiddle Island.
I've seen him in West 4th Street tube stop or subway stop. But anyway,
Sperry's article.
well, after Sperry's article, we can move on to, there's a show I know that you've not watched, and I'm sure just after
Swamp People.
Well, no, just, you watched that, I think you said.
I know.
Oh, okay. So, just after I change over to Apple computers, you'll probably watch this television show, Chrisley Knows
so
Best.
never
Exactly. But Chrisley Knows Best is a hilarious show, I think, if you've got nothing better to do. Where the premise is, there's this married couple, and they've got, the one child, a daughter named Savannah. I think it's Savannah, who is kind of modeled on Paris Hilton, that type of person. And a son who's just lazy and always getting into trouble. And then they adopt an African kid, and they've got this mother-in-law, either living with them or living nearby, who's, one of these rebellious grandmas at the end of her life, punching her bucket list every episode, doing something stupid. And it really is, it's pretty comical, but one of the things that makes it very funny is that the husband is just obviously gay.
Oh. And this is a reality show, right?
This is a reality show, yeah. And so that's called Chrisley Knows Best.
Does the wife know he's gay?
I don't know. Well, they're married in real life.
I think there's a lot of that going around.
In and around Atlanta, to pick a city. And
is that right?
Yes.
I was thinking D.C.
Yeah, in D.C.
Connecticut.
Exactly. Well, so they, in real life, tax fraud is bad, unless you're a political family, in which case you do that all the time. That's how you roll. But, that's funny. Wait.
They consider tax fraud passive income, Charles.
This guy was in my business school class.
Vinier?
David Vinier.
Is this Jordan's? That's F-O-U-R. The guy who's the Wolf of Wall Street. Oh, Anonymous is donating.
That's good, actually. I like it when people do it anonymously.
Slobodan, not Milosevic.
Look at this. We gratefully remember the late Peter Oblet's railroad official, community, Chelsea Rail. Design.
Diller. What the hell? Yeah, this whole thing is a Barry Diller construction.
Let's just see. Oh yeah, this guy was in my high school class, Adrian Benepe, and he got a summer job at the Parks and Recreation Department, and he went from being just like a guy in one of those Parks and Recreation suits, and he and his buddies in high school would be smoking marijuana nonstop. They were not on the Let's Go to Harvard program, or Yale program, but he stayed his entire career in this, and did a very good job.
Oops, careful.
I see it now, yeah, sorry.
The Parks and Recreation show is hilarious. Oh, yeah, Hillary. What?
So I would call this a wall of shame.
And Kirsten Gillibrand, she's the one who nominated Caproni, or not nominated, but somehow Gillibrand was involved. Like, what does the senator do?
Well, Kirsten Gillibrand's father was in that cult.
What cult? NXIVM?
NXIVM, exactly.
I'm not surprised. I met Kirsten Gillibrand, and she struck me as an extremely vapid moron.
And this is the woman married to this guy. He ran something called Harbinger Capital, I think, into the ground. But when it was doing well, this was a fund that had just a few investments, which it's kind of risky to have, I would argue, fewer than 16. But he was down at like 5, 6, and for a while doing really well. And she was one of these people who's, we're a team.
It's not going to go down, Charles.
What?
It's not going to go down, Charles.
No, but you wouldn't do this. This was, or you don't know people who do this. So your partner is the investment mastermind doing well, and so you decide that you're going to shame people in the charity that your husband buys your way into, and you're sitting around fundraising, trying to raise money. There was this really nasty article, or an article about her nasty behavior, where there are some very famous people on the board of this thing who've been, Amanda Burden, for example, is one of them, where these families have given a lot of money responsibly, and she would go to meetings and try to humiliate the people who couldn't match her level.
What the hell is that about?
It's crazy. It's crazy shit, Jason. It's, crazy stuff.
I've
But
never
anyways,
been in this
So
standard
I was
hotel.
talking about Chrisley Knows Best.
Right.
And so here's they do tax fraud, and they're now in prison. This couple. I mean, so and they probably
Is that on the show?
no.
That would be a good episode.
It's the sequel. Chrisley didn't know best.
Yeah.
Actually,
Christy knows how to stay off the prison yard.
probably not. Chrisley's probably like
The most popular guy in jail.
Exactly. Let me in. So contrast that with Hillary Clinton, who Columbia University makes her a professor. Now, she's never, as far as I know, she's never taught anything in her life. But to make her a professor of international affairs, having been Secretary of State, where she used our government and her husband's charity that she now runs with her, her spawn and Bill, to basically let Bill have affairs around the world, steal as much money as possible, virtue signal.
How about destroying Libya?
Not just Libya, Haiti,
Right.
all these other places. And Colombia, I mean, I think there should be an old-fashioned inquisition into Columbia University. Say, what diligence was done on this appointment? How many other remember, we had that guy, Doug.
But I think the reason they want somebody like that is that students will be like, ooh, I'm going to go to Columbia and take a class with a big fat lady in a tent.
Yeah, well, but
That's what you should teach is circus tents as haute couture.
we're going to go through that in a second. We should invite our viewers to come up with a syllabus and different course ideas, and term papers and PhD theses and all that stuff. But remember, we had that guy Doug on for that long show who had set up a graduate school at NYU in Columbia early on.
What was Doug's last name?
It was about the Wounded Warrior
yeah, I do
Project. That
remember
guy.
that.
Okay, so they actually have a faculty at Columbia on charities, on how to run a charity correctly. How do they let this unindicted as yet charity fraudster take a dime or have the benefit, the courtesy that comes from holding that kind of an exalted title? When you say you're a professor, and maybe like Obama, she's just a lecturer, but if she's a full actual professor, holding academic.
Doesn't she need a degree? Isn't she just an adjunct or something?
Well, let's just give her the title based on her life experience, and then she has one of these 400-page resumes probably that she's a founder of this charity and that charity, and still not in prison, though I should be. And
That's the highlight of her resume. Still not in prison. She should teach a class on that.
that's right.
That's the one thing she really actually knows.
At Columbia, we walked around there. Of course, Clarissa got her MBA there, and so I spent a lot of time up there when she was.
I didn't know she played basketball.
She didn't do that at 5'3", but.
I'm kidding.
Need a hat, Jason?
Nope.
Right near the Whitney now.
There's a Whitney.
Speaking of shit, I mean Hillary. It's just to me, it's the kind of stuff that the IRS in the real world should be looking very hard at Columbia and other Ivy League schools, whatever you want to call them, and saying, now what is this? Is this an educational institution, or is this a credential manufacturing institution and virtue signaling operation for connected donors? I mean, what is it?
They're making deals over at the Tesla place if you're looking to.
I could put you in one.
What's it going to take, Charles, to get you in this Model Y today? You're more of an S plaid kind of guy.
I am.
You've got 140 grand to drop.
No,
let me show you.
I keep saying I much like the business model of not owning a car, not paying for insurance, and just using a car service whenever I need it. I mean, which is not very often.
Yeah.
But when I do,
It's Dos Equis.
Yeah.
So
the contrast there. Here you're going to anoint Hillary Clinton. You're giving her a platform now to go all over in the big media market. Another platform. You got the Clinton Foundation giving awards out to global citizens.
Right.
It'd be as if you have the Cosa Nostra's Good Citizenship Award.
Yeah.
This is in member of.
Charles, your GT4. Why'd you park it here?
Oh, God, I didn't want the world to know I had the green one.
Wow. This is.
What does that cost?
You know, I have to say I don't know. So GT3 RS.
Oh, this is this.
This is insane money right here. This might be 300 grand, and this guy in the Ram is about to ram it.
He's gonna.
Let's watch this.
This will be
Let's
funny.
watch. Insurance claim about to happen. Just tap the carbon fiber wing to make sure you're parked properly. Pitbull is trying to injure you, Charles.
Oh, they didn't know what was going on. It's probably his car.
Probably. Is that Andrew Tate or Pitbull?
I don't know.
That's an insane. I don't know. Somebody in the audience is going to know how much a GT3 RS. I think it might be well over 200,000.
Wow, this is really stinky. But this could, you could be in another country as opposed to Manhattan. I mean, this is when we first started coming down here after the pandemic began. This was just vacant.
Yeah.
Right now it's thriving. Look at this. And these are all super high end. I mean, Airbase that shit is not.
You can
cheap.
get an ugly tie there, I've heard.
$250 now.
For that tie?
Now.
Not.
Well, for me, it would be $250,000 because I think there's probably only one or two of them in the world. But
Right.
the demand will be great at the blind.
The Brazil tie.
No, the Society for the Blind annual dinner.
The tie would be for the Society of Blind. But you know what? I just inadvertently brought up something important about Brazil.
Ah, yes. Yeah, let's go on that avenue so
Sure.
we'll see more closures.
I don't know if anybody in the crowd knows about GT3 RS prices, but it's expensive. So, yeah, Hillary's teaching people nonsense at Columbia.
Right, and it's really in your face. You know, we're here, the UN's here, the Clinton Foundation's here. We're going to continue to sell unregulated globalism. We'll let this blowhard pretend like Biden that she's actually teaching anything. And, you know, what is she going to showcase? You know, I have managed in 4 years to destroy more countries at more expense than any other human or animal being. Right?
It's quite an accomplishment.
It really is. I mean, if you look at her, you know that who's the guy who does mean tweets? Is that Fallon?
Jimmy
Fallon?
The other one, 223 grand for that car,
right.
Charles.
Including sales tax?
That's just probably options. I mean, you're looking at 250 grand plus. I don't think you can get too many. Well, that's not an RS. That's more of a regular one.
Right. So you know, remember the Podesta emails? God, I'm all shit everywhere. Podesta emails. Are these very expensive eyeglasses? I bet you they are.
I've never heard of it before.
Well,
I don't
obviously they don't work because you got shit right in front of the store and they haven't cleaned it out yet.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be expensive if they're selling it over here.
Yeah. I buy my eyeglasses where everyone else takes a shit. And they're obviously not in focus because I can't see the shit. But anyway, remember the Podesta WikiLeaks emails, and remember the many emails of Hillary Clinton. She's up at 10 o'clock in the morning. There's a cabinet meeting. Am I supposed to be there?
I mean, she's so stupid. It's crazy.
I mean, to put that in an email? No, of course not. You're, third or fourth in line or fifth in line to be president of the United States. And
this thing runs itself.
10 o'clock.
So early.
Think of the exactly.
Yeah.
Obama's not up yet.
Like 11:30-ish.
Yeah. Just some of the questions are there, and
The View doesn't end until 11.
Is the View on it like?
I don't know. I'm just
12
saying.
or 1 or,
No idea.
The spew, I call it.
The spew. They don't want to interrupt Whoopi Goldberg's lunch.
It's projectile vomiting, or it's
Do you remember that guy who was stuck in his house and the New York Post was covering it, Walt or something, and they would be like, oh, his mom makes him like 17 chickens and 12 dozen eggs.
God.
And then the fire department had to chop down the walls to get him
yeah,
out
I
of
do
there.
remember that guy.
And he lost like 600 pounds and he still weighed 400 pounds. And it was like, Jesus, what's with this guy?
And then he was a Subway spokesman, or no?
Then he died. He went to some famous lose weight thing.
And he lost it all.
No, he lost like 600 pounds and still weighed like 200 or 300 pounds.
Jesus.
Walter something.
It's everywhere.
Walter Hudson, is that it?
I don't remember. Well, it's Hudson Avenue.
Oh, is it?
Hudson Street. That's where we are, Hudson Street.
That's maybe why the universe just...
Here, let me show you this.
But, okay.
So but seriously, you go and you look through. I mean, just take The emails that we know about there is one example which would disqualify her, in my opinion, from holding this position in Colombia if you truly were running a left-wing progressive organization trying to promote women's rights. That idiot who won the Nobel Peace Prize, and there are quite a few of them.
Obama?
No, the guy from Bangladesh. The guy who had the bank for poor rural people. More shit everywhere.
I don't know who that is.
Brown is the new black. Anyway, the name will come to me. And this guy had a charity that basically, supposedly in rural India and Bangladesh and other places, would lend women principally small amounts of money so they could buy sewing machines or something.
Right. Micro loans, yes.
Micro loans, yeah, that guy. And
Whole Foods used to ask for that.
right. And so what they don't tell you about that is that's a really stupid idea. Right? I mean, you should just give that away
Right.
if it's that small.
They're over there hitting up somebody for a $200 repayment.
Then that's exactly what they were doing. So they would make the loans, and then if you failed to make the payments, they would send these thugs around. Let's just wait here for a second.
This kid's kicking his sister. It's not
That's
good.
standard.
It's not good.
You don't know the sister.
Well, she doesn't deserve to be kicked.
I don't know.
Skinny little legs.
Let's just not get in there.
Not getting involved.
Yeah. But the point is that the basic premise of this at surface level was really, really bad. But ultimately, behind it, the guy who won the Nobel Prize, he was lionized and all this kind of stuff. On the side, he has all these unregistered charities and business interests, which we did a show about it, where we went through it in the New York Attorney General Charity Bureau. You can see some of this. But scroll forward to Hillary's exalted tenure as Secretary of State and afterwards, this guy's performance was so bad that he had this bank, microlending bank, that the Bangladeshi government thought it was too corrupt and kicked him out. So Hillary Clinton, as Secretary of State, threatened the Bangladeshi government that if they didn't rescind that action, that they would deny Bangladesh, which is desperately poor, a badly needed IMF loan.
I mean, she is a Sopranos reject in an ugly, expensive outfit.
Actually, we should have done this. Can I say a bad word, Jason?
Yeah.
There's a series of movies, 1, 2, and 3. We could do Bitch Perfect, not Pitch Perfect.
We did it.
Did we do Bitch Perfect?
Yeah, when we went to the Clinton thing in Arkansas, and this sound thing was acting up, and the sound was totally ruined.
Is that right? We used Bitch Perfect?
That was Bitch Perfect.
Oh, so we can do 2 and 3 now. We got the.
I got to go back to Arkansas.
No, not really. Once you've done that, I've done that once.
That could have been one of the greatest episodes ever, but the sound, I was disappointed.
Yeah.
Good thing I figured out that ground loop problem.
Yeah. Did you figure it out, or did I figure it out?
Oh, you must have figured it out. Yeah, you knew the whole time it was a grounding problem. You just couldn't isolate where it was.
Right. I was busy there thinking about an electric.
Right up your alley. It's like that time that I bought and sold those multi-billion-dollar corporations.
Exactly.
That was easy.
Yeah, exactly. Or when I invented the first 3D camera.
Yeah. I wish I had thought of that.
But anyway, it just to think that in this environment where inflation's raging, Biden is taking credit for historic accomplishments of 2022, decrying Republicans as we speak for creating the border crisis.
I know.
It's really interesting how he could come up with that one. But he's doing it. And also commemorating the dread events of July 6th, 2001, when all those Trump supporters came in to protest. I mean,
I thought he was talking about my first wedding.
Was that your first one?
It might have been July 3rd.
Well,
Whatever. It was that whole week can be forgotten about.
Actually, my only wedding was tomorrow.
Oh. Happy tomorrow.
It would have been a big anniversary.
Oh, really?
Well, no, I mean not a
40th?
even decade, but I mean in total number of years, 41.
Wow.
This place. Did you ever come over here in college?
White Horse?
Yeah.
It won best hamburger one year.
It really, it's a long-standing institution, and back in the old days, in the 60s and 70s and 80s and afterwards, very famous people, actors, actresses, singers, etc., would get shit-faced in here.
Yeah, no, it's an NYU haunt, but I haven't been there in a long time. There was another one, Barrel of Pigs or something.
Oh, no, that's I know what that is. It's called, it's a Green Bay Packers hangout now. I know exactly what you're talking about.
But what's it? It's not Barrel of Pigs.
It's something of, watch it.
That
Or not.
smearing dog feces
Why
everywhere.
do you think my boots are brown?
Yeah.
You know.
But anyway, that whatever it is, pig place
Yeah.
had pretty good like charcuterie, and if you want that kind of salty stuff, it was good.
Well, really, this whole area, got shit everywhere.
Yeah,
It changed. You have different districts. You got Greenwich Village, Shit Village,
Because
Shit City.
what happens is when regular people see every moron in the world riding a bicycle on the sidewalk and not picking up after the dog and walking their dog without a leash, even people who are probably nice start
Dante's Inferno right here.
they start to feel like they can do whatever they want, and it's more convenient to not clean up your dog's excrement, and it's they want their dog to feel free to walk wherever
Who says
it wants.
it's a dog?
Well,
I wouldn't be at all surprised that it's the street creatures who come out at night.
I mean, I'm just saying that too.
I'm not an expert
When
on shit.
other homeless people see homeless people sleeping in the bank and crapping on the sidewalk and nothing happens, it just causes more of that behavior to happen. And I can't believe I forgot to tell you this, Charles.
What's that?
Well, I was on an incredible odyssey all throughout the city for a variety of different
Right.
reasons that it's not
We
going
won't
to
get
interest
into it,
anybody to talk about right now. But I was walking on just a segment of 22nd Street or something that I just don't often go to.
Right.
And the king of garbage.
Was there? He's
Yes, he's
relocated?
been relegated
He's-
to a much smaller kingdom. It was, I mean, I don't want to say it was funny because the guy's life is obviously sad and pathetic, but he was sitting in this incredibly small pile of garbage and he looked right at me. And remember, when he was the king of garbage, he was like, "Duh, get away from me!" And he was like presiding over his like land there. Now he just had like 4 little garbage bags and he looked at me. He was like, "Eh."
Got any garbage? She said.
No, he was just like kind of
Really?
simmering. What is this idiot doing?
Well, we don't have the light technically, but we.
But I mean, we weren't going either, and then he slammed on the brakes.
Well, because I gave him a nasty look.
Oh, good. I like that.
Maybe it's one of the reasons, or because he just decided to be nice. Now, this is vastly improved over a year ago, I think, in terms of activity. Maybe it's part because it's not that cold right now.
I was going to say it's back to being pretty cold. My feet feel kind of cold.
Yeah.
I should have
wear a
worn. Well, my head.
Let's let these guys go.
I should have a hat on my feet.
Yeah, exactly. No, you wear a hat on your head and it makes your feet warm.
That's
It's
not how
counterintuitive.
my feet work. Something's going on with your feet. I need socks.
I'm wearing
and I
socks.
don't need a hat.
No, well, unless the people at the National Outdoor Leadership School were lying to me when I was in 8th grade, and unless my father was lying to me, when you wear a hat, you will stay warmer.
But this is a release valve for me. The heat goes
Yeah.
straight out.
Okay. That's why you're cold.
No, I think it's because I'm wearing sneakers. I should have just worn winter shoes. But
Maybe it's because we're not in Hawaii. That's why
That's-
you're cold.
probably it too.
So
Darren Beattie interviewed Trump. If people are looking
should
at
try to
Revolver
interview
News.
Trump.
I was thinking about that. I don't
maybe that's logistically something that's
know how to go about that.
I think we can.
Call Mar-a-Lago maybe.
No, we won't discuss on air how we'll do it, but I think I know how to do it.
Oh.
At least ask.
Okay. Oh,
And
that will be interesting.
so we're getting close. For those of you who are new to the show, we're getting very close to the scene of my entry into
Oh, yeah.
studying.
But before we move off of Trump and Revolver News, I didn't get to listen to the whole thing yet, but I was listening to it, and they're speaking quite a lot about January 6th because Darren Beattie and Revolver
Right.
News have done a lot of reporting
Good
about the
reporting.
pipe bomber and other things, Ray Epps and everything. And Trump was saying some stuff that really made me think that he probably has seen Crowdsource the Truth. 'Cause
Really?
He was talking a lot about John Sullivan
Really?
and saying how there was a lot of video on him and that he's seen a lot of video on him.
Right.
Now, Charles, I think I'm looking at a purple C8, but is it not purple?
That's
What
a
color is
Corvette.
that?
That's purple. Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's either purple or deep blue. It's it may be two-tone. I can't.
Well, the way it would work is they have all this fancy paint where, depending on the angle that you
Right.
look at it, it will look like
looks
different
nice.
colors.
That looks, and that's relatively cheap compared to a Ferrari, right?
Well, yes, compared to a Ferrari,
But it's fast, right?
So it's very fast.
Let's
So
just
that's
listen.
not a Z06. That's probably about. Well, you can't get it for the actual list price, but it should be 70 grand.
That's cheap.
But you're going to pay like 100 for it because it's difficult
Not
to
if
get.
steals it.
It's true. But you really want the Z06 if you're going to get one
I'm
of
not
those.
going to get a car like that.
I think you should.
Well, thank you, Jason. No, I'm not going to. So yeah,
Tesla had to cut production in China.
well, we'll talk about that in a second. I just want to show this thing here. There's a picture of me. We have it somewhere. Go ahead. Standing under this with my mother or father and this briefcase full of crap that my grandfather, because he'd been in the office supplies business, gave me, reporting for my first day of school, with protractor, eraser, pads, all I could barely carry.
But you're definitely not going to use all that stuff on the first day.
In nursery school?
Protractor.
Exactly, all this stuff. But my
Get your abacus, Charles.
I think one of them, slide rule, not a slide rule. But this is an old church that sadly, you can tell if you look closely that it burned. And it's been reconfigured.
How can you tell that?
Look there, the window.
Ah.
And it was the steeple, I think, that burned. And then there's an original memorial. It didn't look like this when I went. You can see here. The third oldest existing church.
Wow. On this block?
Edifice in Manhattan. Yeah.
Wow. And
this is, you see up on top, those are new buildings on top there, the orange things and stuff. The complex it looked, if you strike that stuff on the top, it's pretty much the same.
the progressive.
Oh yeah, this is one of these churches that's, it's basically the Church of Communism.
Drag
like
show.
At this point, it wasn't like that when I went, as I remember. And that tall building there didn't exist. That was church property. So this is, in terms of this, you don't pay taxes on the property. This is, if you could knock it all down and put up condos, this would be worth a lot of money.
Right.
When the economy comes back, which will probably be, 10 years after never. But, so where were we? We were talking when I...
Well, I said Tesla had to cut production
Oh,
in
yeah,
China.
yeah. Did you see they cut the prices in China a lot?
9%.
But beyond that, the price of a Tesla in China is much cheaper than the price of a Tesla here.
Why is that?
Well, maybe some would argue that they're made in China and shipped here. I don't know, but the point is, people in China are furious. The existing people who bought Teslas are
because
pissed.
they paid a lot.
And if they borrowed to buy it, then they're not happy.
Not good.
Not good.
They're doing a lot of stuff to really complicate. Can we go in here?
We've been in here, but sure, yeah. But look at this.
Have we?
You got it. We probably shouldn't go.
Oh, no cell phones.
But why would you have a park? I mean, I understand there are no bicycles,
but why no
dogs? Well, probably because you can't clean. You got to clean them up, and you wouldn't do that. No smoking. Maybe I get. No cell phone use. You can talk. Doesn't say no talking, right?
Yeah. I guess it's because people have a tendency to talk a lot louder on the cell phone and just sit in there yapping like dopes.
Call it Karen Park. It's a
Well,
park for all the Karens.
These are cell phones, and if we went in
I know
there,
what I'm
technically
saying.
we'd be violating the rules.
And there's my old apartment building. There.
The tall one?
The not so tall one, the tan one there in the corner. 111 barrel.
Nice.
It was actually very. I was there from 1988 to about 1991, and it was.
There's an ale house around here, Charles.
Yeah, down there it's out of business actually.
Is it?
Yeah.
Barrow Street Ale House? When did that go out of business?
This was a place I used to go to. I don't like it anymore. I don't go out anymore. But there was There was a New York Fox reporter who was a former policeman, and you probably know who this is. I forget the guy's name, but he was the guy. Any accident, any mayhem in the New York One, or not New York One, Fox.
He was on
local. He'd be the man at the scene because he was a former police.
So he knew all the people.
Captain or lieutenant or something like that. And he knew all these people, and he'd come in there after his shoots, and he'd come in there and drink.
Booze.
And so he was in there after he was on the front page of the New York Post for punching a horse in the face.
I remember that.
That guy.
How can you punch a horse in the face? And what's the point?
Well, he did drink a little bit too much.
What does the horse do when you punch him in the face?
Somebody saw it, unfortunately for him, and he was fired.
Wow.
And,
But
I
the horse
asked
didn't
him,
do
though,
that.
after the fact, I said, what were you thinking? And he said,
thinking?
I don't really think I was doing much thinking.
Yeah.
I was.
Yeah,
That's why I punched the horse in the face.
yeah. No, that's a poor decision.
I think punching anybody anything is a poor decision.
Well, unless it's about to punch you.
Right, I'm just saying, but horses don't punch.
Smells like a good burger right here.
L'Oreal, that's not a good sign.
But I think
Why?
it's from across the street. They're not making burgers in here. It's probably in there.
Yeah, in there somewhere.
It smells really good.
Yeah. The clam. No, we don't need to go there.
No.
So
But I love the maturity level on this show.
I'm not going to get into what kind of a bar that is. It's too obvious.
So, well, there's still a lot of other stuff.
So there's the other article, the groundbreaking article by Lee Smith, which I think Lee is a man, right? Lee Smith?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess that qualifies both of us to be on the Supreme Court. But,
Not a biologist.
right. But Lee Smith has done some very good work connecting the dots on many things, including the 2020 election. And this is an article that goes deeply into the history. Monica Showalter, somebody I interviewed when I had my radio show, the Washington Times. She does very good work, writes for the American Thinker and other places. She did an article about Lee Smith's piece, which is up on American Thinker, and then has a link to Lee Smith's very lengthy piece, which goes back into the history and basically says that if you want to understand everything that's happened from 2016 forward, you need to go back into Barack Obama and his history, the history of his presidency, and what he changed while he was president to, in effect, domestically allow our national government apparatus itself illegally, and using private contractors, I would argue illegally, to target U.S. citizens and political opponents, beginning in 2009.
Yeah.
You know, and really expanding upon. Let's go maybe down.
Okay.
It's not that much down that way. Expanding upon initiatives that George W. Bush and famously Bill Barr had been all in favor of, but weren't able to get across the line while George W. was president. So this process of demonizing your political opponents.
Wait, George W? What was Bill Barr doing with George W? I thought HW.
There was it was HW, but I think he was counseling, or there was something he was doing.
He was working at Verizon. He was
Right.
the general counsel at Verizon, and then Jim Baker went there.
Worked for him.
Right. That came out in that Lee Smith article that I did not realize that Bill Barr had been at Verizon, and I mean there's so much to this, Charles.
Right. Well, so the thing that's fascinating here in that article is on the one hand, the team was targeting political opponents, which you can't do. For that, they did do it.
Yeah.
And they need to be punished for that. And on the other hand, around the world, there's another idiot who got the Nobel Peace Prize, Barack Obama, for doing nothing good too soon. Well, this is that pickleball shit, right?
Oh, is it? Was Nick Pickles playing?
I can't. It's like, we'll get into that in a second. Pickleball. Oh, no, I'll pick it up. It's like the time I told you about, and new viewers won't know about this. When as a banker, when I sold Wilson Sporting Goods, they had this idea to juice the revenue by selling a bigger tennis ball than the standard tennis ball.
And you said that's a terrible
idea.
I
did. Being a tennis player, I said, who would want to admit that they're so bad that they have to use a beach ball instead of a tennis ball?
Does that make it fly slower, or what's the point of it?
Yeah, it makes it fly slower to see, and you get
bigger to hit,
easier to see and hit, and all that kind of stuff. Tougher to spin, and you can't go as fast. So they asked me to come to the International grand announcement, which was here in New York at a
Oh,
tennis
the
club.
larger tennis ball?
Yeah, there, and Chris Everett was there with her, John Lloyd.
Endorsed by balls.com?
Well, they were all Wilson, getting Wilson, whatever you call them, endorsement money. And there was a local tennis pro, and in front of, you've been to these things, I've only been to a few of them, where there's seemed to me like there were 300 cameras and around this stuff, and they're out there, and there's no fourth. And the chief financial officer and president of Wilson are there starting their spiel, and they say, you're probably wondering why there isn't a fourth. A lucky member of the audience is going to join and play tennis. And he went to high school in the city, and he's from the city. Yeah, I'm wearing a business suit.
Did you know that?
No.
Oh my God. So this is the same geniuses who decided the ball should be bigger. Are going to invite you to play in a suit.
Let's just wait. Oh, we can make
20 seconds. But that's a stupid idea.
It was pretty funny. But that was a case, that's probably where I began to really have fun as a banker. That's the case where they handed me this assignment, probably because no other firm wanted to do it and nobody at the firm wanted to do it, and said, you got to sell this business that is, last year it lost $30 million on sales of 120. This year it's going to lose $20 million.
Who wouldn't
and our
want
plan
that?
is to break even in 4 years.
Oh,
I said,
great.
that's not going to work. And so I had to go and work with the management team, no consultants, redo the plan, come up with a plan, nursemaid the company every month, make sure the numbers came in above plan. And only when that happened for a while, then sell the company, and I did. And I sold it for a lot of money, actually, back then. But
did you play tennis in a suit?
I did. I was out there.
Wow.
Yeah, they had got the racket for me, and I took my suit off, maybe my jacket off, and I played in my pants, and took my tie off. And
were you annoyed as hell by that?
What could I do? I mean,
but that's not the question.
I thought it was kind of fun. I hit opposite Chris Everett.
Oh wow!
I mean, I hit with her, and John Lloyd hit with a serious pro. And the difference between a male pro then, and I had played with people like Chris Everett and other
Careful
guys.
about biological comments.
Well, there's a different strength level.
I agree.
And it's just, and you can see it when you go out on the court.
But you're not allowed to talk about facts on the internet.
Or in life, I guess. Huh? That's what the one prime amendment, or the amendment that we don't know, or whatever in computer speak. But
the prime directive.
Yeah, exactly. So we batted the ball around for a good, I'd say 5 or 10 minutes. It was fun. The big ball idea never worked. And I think pickleball is another stupid idea. If you don't want to play tennis, pick something else. Take up knitting. But don't go in a reduced, playing on a crappy surface in a crappy town filled with shit. And look at the street. Everything's out.
It's terrible.
Property available, patchouli.
Temperance. Look at that. I never noticed that before.
What is it?
It reminds me of a town in Michigan where idiots live.
Berber street food. I know it's tough for me to understand why Afro-fusion cuisine hasn't taken off, but it's apparently not doing well on Sundays.
What's it fused with?
A vacant restaurant. Smudge Studio on Carmine Street. Cashless payment. Well, maybe it is open. No, cashless payment only. And this is a little bit. This is like saying, and we're also down. We've been nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. We cater breakfast, lunch, dinner, and private events, even when we're closed, and especially when we're closed. And we don't bother to clean where you're going to eat. I mean, in Turkey and some of the countries that are listed there, I've been to, an outdoor restaurant would be cleaner than this one. This looks like people have been taking leaks in there.
I bet you they have.
Another rather aggressively named store, Prodigy Coffee. We think we're prodigies.
Somebody
but our
should
customers
open CompuServe.
probably, what it is there are only so many prodigies, and they don't want to come to this place.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if there were a lot of people there, they wouldn't be prodigies.
I don't understand the concept of I'm going to go take my laptop and sit in a coffee place and pretend I'm important and look all busy on the computer.
Well, if you can't make coffee in your house for whatever reason and you're stuck on a certain type of coffee, I used to do that.
I don't like that.
Oh, yeah, I found it interesting. Do a little people watching. Let's go by Joe's and see how many beggars there are today.
Okay.
On Beggar Boulevard here.
This is kind of a giant. Oh, it's a police dog bomb squad.
Let's
I
get
wonder
away
if
from
we know
that.
anybody in there.
This is that really. Remember that this is Venchi, the very expensive Italian
Yeah.
place.
I mean, it was important. It probably saved it. It could have saved this guy's life.
Chelsea Clinton used to work there. It's her first job. Wenchi.
Really?
No.
Oh. I missed that joke because I was thinking about this Italian restaurant. I don't even think it's there anymore.
On the corner there?
It was a different. Years ago, I went there and had some kind of like pasta with black ink
Yeah.
sauce, squid with black.
Here's-
I got
Tuba.
so sick from food poisoning. I thought I was gonna die.
Yeah, two bumps.
For what?
Right here on your left, 2 bumps.
Oh yeah.
Don't trip over this. I don't speak that language.
Wow, I'm surprised Joe's lets them run this little flea market out in front.
Could you understand what that guy said?
No,
I think it was
I
something
wasn't.
like "You on the road, cash."
I wasn't paying attention.
He wasn't either.
Yeah.
Let's just walk up here and we can. This
Sure.
is in contrast to the meat market that we walked in. It looked pretty flashy where we were up there. We're now on the periphery of NYU. NYU being over there, you would know from your student days, and I would know from having been raised around here. In warmer weather, this is filled with college students
Yep.
at night, up to no good business mostly, but having fun, being college kids. This is an interesting and sad sign right here. Normally there are 2 to 3 people sleeping here. Now, do we
Emergency.
get in trouble if we show a phone number?
No.
You sure? Okay, because this is, look at this, is outside the thing. Here's a notice demanding payment of rent.
Oh.
And notice that the last paid rent in August of 2022.
Wow.
And this thing there's $78,000 of back rent before you get to the January rent. And this says,
Renovation.
I don't think so. Coming soon, end of December 2022. I don't think so. And it's a pity because it looked like it could be nice. But
Well, they owe a lot of money in rent,
I think they're gone.
I would say.
Yeah.
Oh, are they playing Vertigo here?
Where do you see that?
Well, it says Spirited Away
Oh, yeah.
/ Vertigo.
Yeah.
That's a good Hitchcock movie.
And this is generally right around here in this area. You have some independent charity fraudsters.
This is a terrible movie theater, Charles. Have you been in
It
here?
used to be sort of fun when I was a kid. It was
Well,
sort of
but
like
it
an art
smells like
movie.
vomit.
Well, that's appealing, Jason. Right? That
no.
means you can drink in there.
It's a terrible theater.
The whole idea of being, now that you could buy, as you know well, better than I, you could buy a nice TV for what, $300, $500,
Yeah,
and
a huge one.
right, and you can watch. I mean, you're not going to watch movies; they suck. You're going to watch YouTube. You're going to watch stuff in here at the Weed World. Very smart to have Weed World right next to the $1.50 pizza.
I think
right
the
next
pizza
to
opened after they opened the Weed World because they were thinking,
and Dr. Green over there.
get the runoff.
And right next to this nasty-looking, this is the polar. This is like you got Victoria's Secret, and then you've got, how to turn people off from being interested in sex shop. Should we go over to
Sure.
Case
Yeah,
the
let's check out
park?
the park. Yeah.
see what's going on in the park?
That place became a clothing store because when Rudy Giuliani was the mayor, he passed a law, or something happened where he said if you're going to have a sex business, this was aimed at strip clubs.
Right.
He said if you're going to have a sex business, it had to be some percentage of non-sexual stuff.
Right.
So strip clubs all installed steakhouses,
Steakhouses.
and that place started selling dildos and clothing and whatever. And I guess that somehow counts as non-sex stuff. And then it went from being like a whatever porno DVD or a strip club or whatever it was
Right.
to that.
Not good.
But it seems to be doing well because it's stayed that.
It probably doesn't pay rent or pays a very low rent.
I think anything like that is
Let's go over here for a second.
laundering crazy stuff.
Crazy talker. Why is it people like that have to yell? I mean,
Maybe
are you
you
using
can't
the
hear
cell
well.
phone, or are you just yelling? And this,
Got
when you
shit
walk,
in his ears.
when you walk by this place, at, let's say 9 in the morning on a weekday, the owners are bringing their pets in. Excuse me. It's pretty funny.
What is
Banter
this thing?
back-
It's a dog.
Dog daycare
boarding.
and dog boarding.
Is
That
that
was
like
actually Chelsea Clinton's
was like
first job.
waterboarding, but they're trying to get the dogs to talk?
It's a bipartisan effort. You have George Bush's daughter and Chelsea Clinton both worked there.
At the dog grooming place?
I didn't say anything further. The red bamboo does not seem to be doing well.
So what do you think McCarthy is going to do? Lee had
Oh.
a controversial position. He thinks it's good that McCarthy became the speaker. I'm not sure that I agree with that.
Well, and glad you served that one up to me. So I looked into McCarthy's Wikipedia entries. I haven't tried to check them, but it comports with what I remember. So McCarthy is not rich from birth. And if his father was a firefighter.
Yeah, he said that in his speech.
And he put himself through college as a firefighter, and then he got an MBA, and then he went
pretty
directly.
admirable.
It is that part.
Here's a firefighter hat right in the car.
Yeah.
Pretty coincidental, Charles.
No, it's not. I
you
planted this
plant that
whole
there.
thing, Jason. And I script every element of the show.
So
Just
he puts-
can't tell you.
Puts himself through college.
And then he becomes a politician where he spent his whole life. There's one account that claims he's worth $95 million.
What?
And there's,
How did he
but
do that?
Well, his brother-in-law, one of his brothers-in-law, I don't know how many he has a construction business, which apparently has gotten federal contracts and stuff like that. And, you need to look at that. But the more salient thing, and this is what I think is coming, Democrats are really good at tactics, street fighting. And they want it, just like they wanted Trump. Hillary thought it would be easy to beat Trump.
Right.
They wanted Trump to be the
So
nominee.
they wanted McCarthy
They
to be
want
the...
McCarthy because in 2015, when he was jockeying to be Speaker, he had to withdraw from contention because there were credible allegations. He denies, and the other person denies, that he was carrying on an affair with a married congresswoman. And so they maneuvered him out. And I think what they've done here is they've maneuvered him in. Why this guy saves Social Security? Why? Not the strongest argument.
He's going backwards in a wheelchair.
Yeah, I mean, so I can continue to, knock kids over in my wheelchair going backwards. Anyway.
So he had an affair with a congresswoman.
Right, and I think what they're going to pull a Livingston here. So
Livingston?
when back in '98, when Clinton was impeached, people knew that Gingrich was carrying on. And he was the speaker.
Right.
So he resigned when the midterm elections results were terrible. He resigned as speaker. Then they put this guy Livingston in, and then they floated details of Gingrich's infidelities. And then Livingston had to resign because he too was cheating. So I think what they're going to do is let this guy have a Jeff Immelt experience. Jeff Immelt was installed as CEO of GE on Thursday before a certain day in 2001. You can guess September 11th. The Thursday before September 11th, that was his first day as CEO. Spends the weekend doing whatever he was going to do, and then on Tuesday
boom.
he's over. So something similar could well happen. Not 9/11, but something similar could happen to the career of this idiot. He thinks he's speaker. He thinks he's going to get away with all this, and then the Democrats drop the dirt on him and force the Republicans to select another speaker and allow.
That's definitely going to happen.
I think it is, and then allow, the captured mainstream media, academia, social media, and quote intelligentsia to say, see, this is what happens when you make the mistake of letting any supposed
Republican do anything.
Right. Destroy the rent monitor.
Should we just do a...
Yeah, I was going to say, that's a pretty serious Hanukkah bush pile.
Well, but let's go this way and then
Sure.
we'll come check that bush out. We'll see what's going on. Looks like weed sales. Oh, look, that guy's got a big sign. Just says weed in case you didn't
can't-
know.
So you can read?
I can read.
Wow.
Yeah, public
can't
school. Public school, it's
This guy
not
looks
that
pretty
bad.
scary with an orange mask. Right?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is that this COVID mask protocol has made it now normal for people to walk around with hat, mask, and sunglasses, which, I mean, I've seen plenty of people who don't look like they're afraid of COVID to me.
Right.
but they seem like they're about to do some bad stuff, and they don't want people to be able to recognize who they are.
It's not a bad reason, but without explaining why, I will tell you that I had to take another COVID test today.
Oh man!
And the place where I was just to gain entry to this place, and so I was an authoritarian guard, the weekend guard, who decided to try to put me through the ringer. And of course, she's not wearing a face mask, and she's not barely speaking English properly, so I'm not following the instructions. We eventually get the job done, but my test is right here on the counter. She's right next to it with no mask, and there's a woman right behind me. Two people come behind me. We're all in the same area as I am doing this test, and it's not finished.
And so if you have it,
right,
they're being all exposed.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing. That's why we don't normally have medical tests conducted by idiots.
Well, yeah, what we do is let's find a place where there's steaming piles of human and dog shit nearby, garbage everywhere, and let a whole bunch of you congregate as this test is administered. And if I am challenged, and of course the cops are over there, and if I am challenged, and the skateboarder's over there, then I'm likely going to infect all these people.
Of course.
I mean, shouldn't it be? I'm aware of a reputable Swiss bank that is set up, it's a big one, that when you get there, it's set up so that nobody who's a guest can see any other guest. There are no common waiting areas. There's
At the bank?
Yeah, because it's a Swiss bank.
Oh, because it's secret accounts.
Well, it's not secret, it's confidential. They don't want...
They don't want one money launderer to know what another money launderer is doing.
There are people who are very, very wealthy who don't want you to know how wealthy they are, and so they...
So they launder all the money?
No, they don't necessarily launder.
Not all of it.
No. Yeah. Now look at this. This is...
It's a lot of trees.
Does this not seem like it could be quite vulnerable to
I mean,
arson?
listen, I fully appreciate the need and desire to celebrate Christmas, but the notion of just growing a tree, chopping it down, decorating it for a month, and then throwing it out like this,
I had the idea on my property that what we would do is buy a live tree,
and plant it,
put it inside the house, and water it and whatever, and then replant it, and then create what we never did it.
Well, I had a friend growing up whose family would do that. They would plant the trees after they used them, and I said, well, that's a good idea. Then you can have a forest somewhere.
Yeah, and the first.
Now, wait a minute. What's going on with all these production people? This looks like Vice News or something.
I don't know. Maybe it's for the burning of the Christmas tree?
Yes, something stupid is about to happen.
Oh, the sign said that they were going to get rid of these trees before our program starts.
Well,
maybe they're now going to get rid of them.
I don't know. You can tell certain things about the level of stupidity based on, like that was a Sony, like F700 or something. So
Is that your wagon there?
The G-Wagon. Yeah, they just Doug DeMuro reviewed the off-road version of that, also $230,000.
Wow.
So you're going to have to get one of those and a GT3 RS.
All right.
How much carbon fiber can you own?
First,
Charles?
I'm going to have a root canal once a week. Then I'll.
Are you going to have a root canal?
No.
Oh yeah, don't have a root canal.
But so here we are. We're back in the scene of the beginning of my life here. We're a little 3-year-old walking around here, down about there. The traffic was two-way on Fifth Avenue back then. Wow. And the buses were these, you can see pictures of them, these I hated them. They had straw seats, what seemed like straw seats, and they had the exhaust was just everywhere.
Huh.
And in the winter they weren't heated enough. In the summer they were too hot.
Wow.
People could smoke in the bus.
Oh.
It's a miracle I survived.
Could you imagine? I mean, I remember that. I remember being on airplanes when you could smoke, and I was like, holy shit, this is like being inside a cigarette.
Right. Or, actually, I'm young enough to remember when they introduced seatbelts. When I was a little kid.
Oh, in a car?
Yeah. And
what's his name?
I forget who was.
Unsafe at any speed?
Ralph Nader was saying.
Nader, right.
But I believe there were people who, with a straight face, said that it was dangerous to have seatbelts.
That was the people who made the cars.
Right.
Because they didn't want to. The people who were making the cars didn't like seatbelts because they thought that it made people think that cars were dangerous.
Well, and they were making the argument that when the car crashed, you'd be entangled and you couldn't get out. You also
Right.
wouldn't be through the window.
Well, then they also had like big giant spikes on the steering wheel that poked out Sammy Davis Jr.'s eye. Some things are stupid.
Now let's look at this sign here. Sidewalk closed. Please use walkway with an arrow pointed that way. Who is not going to figure out that if you want to get around this building, you've got to go that way, right? I mean, you need that arrow. I mean,
Not somebody
if we didn't use that
who's
arrow,
able to read.
if we didn't use the arrow, think of the paint that this is, that was used here, and how many other signs are like this. If you're truly against global warming,
It's an
you lose the arrow.
I was thinking about it earlier this morning. Like, how come Greta Thunberg is not yelling at them for like dropping depleted uranium all over the place and
Because she is dumber than a
sending all
box
this
of rocks.
equipment to Ukraine? Like, I'm not that worried about carbon dioxide compared to all that stuff.
She's an angry scold, and she's not even 20.
She's 19.
Yeah, I mean, imagine what she's going to be like in 20 years.
I don't even want to think about it.
Imagine what her children, if she has any, are going to be like. We don't have to imagine. There they are.
Yeah,
But let's go down 9th,
sure.
slouch towards Bethlehem.
So, okay, now we have a Speaker of the House. What are they going to start doing tomorrow?
Well, so in life, you've done this. You've done many transactions. Maybe you could call them deals. You don't, if you're smart and you're talking about business or investing, you negotiate, and politics, frankly, all aspects of shit everywhere.
Wow.
Nice. Let's go past quickly. Yeah, feel free to just make a complete
That might
mess.
be the Archduke of garbage.
It's
Paying tribute to the king.
It's a secret society of garbage pickers. You could do that. You could have that show, American Pickers, called Garbage
Yeah.
Pickers.
The king of garbage is not really picking. He's just like sitting amid the garbage, surveying.
Actually, the king of garbage is is dead. Long live the king! But he was a friend. Is his name? You would have loved to meet this guy. He was extremely eccentric, and he he had a wild childhood. He grew up. His father had like thousands of acres of land up in Millbrook area, and was from an old family. There's a town called Wingdale in upstate New York, and that's the wing of Wingdale. But anyway, so he grew up in this crazy-ass environment. Of course, he became a hippie, got into drugs, got into, heavy into alcohol, and woke up one day in the middle of a field not knowing where he was and said,
Yikes.
AA.
Yeah, this is
It's
not a
a
good
thing.
idea.
Probably AA for me. And when I met him, he had been sober for decades. And his father gave him, thankful he was alive, gave him like 20 acres, and Peter resolved,
And a mule.
well, no mule, and Peter resolved to build a castle on the 20 acres out of garbage.
Oh,
And he
garbage.
did it.
Why out of
Because there were all these estates that, when they would renovate these things, they'd just throw stuff out, and he'd take the stone. And it's called Wings Castle. You can look it up.
But not really garbage, though.
Disused.
What do they call that? Recover.
Repurposed,
Yeah.
whatever, but garbage. He explained it to me. He had a deal where he would go to every dump up there, because up there you take your garbage to the dump, and he would buy coffee or breakfast or something for the guys at the dump and say, when you see this, give me a call. I'll come right in. I'll pick it up.
Wow.
And it took him a while, but he built a large castle, which is today used. He's died, sadly.
Somebody in there has an Apple TV, and whenever we walk by here, the remote control wants to connect to this.
So, and then he then developed a business. He had a large property, so he rented animals and cars. He would fix cars and vintage cars and animals to movies. And I forget the really famous movies. I think Ragtime was one of them.
Wow.
And they're
What's this guy's last name?
Wing. And
Because I knew somebody with a vintage car thing.
he was big into it, and he died actually in a 3-wheeled car coming around a turn. And
You told me that story.
But he was He was the king of garbage. I went, this person's close.
Yeah,
Can't
these
live
people
in
are
that.
just serfs.
The other business he had was, he's the one who hid an elephant on his property.
That's what I remember.
Now that he's dead, we can reveal that because you can't prosecute him.
He
stole an elephant, actually.
How can you steal an elephant?
Another animal wrangler for movies had sold this elephant to a circus in like the Midwest, and the circus was abusing the elephant. So the guy calls Peter up and says, "Can you help me steal an elephant?" And
how do you do that?
He's the
Put it in
kind of
his
guy. He's
pants?
the kind of guy who would do that. He said, "Oh, okay, sure.
What do
we
you
leave?"
What's the container? How do you get it out of the?
I don't know.
Steal an elephant. That's a movie right there.
Yeah. Yeah, he was. And then the other thing he did, he was very cautious with money. He
Except when it comes to elephant theft, then money cost is no object.
There are probably clips of him.
Now it's back.
So he.
I think something just happened.
That's Hillary's next.
Weird
Something
going
just
on.
happened.
Something weird going on with our sound here, Charles.
All right.
I don't know if people can still hear us. That's All right, you know what? Rather than monkey around with this little problem and figure out what's going on, if people can still hear us, unless there's anything else you'd like to say.
I think there's one thing I'd like to say, which is this.
So hang
this
on, let me
January
make sure
6th.
that we can be heard.
Okay.
Okay. That thing came unplugged. Stand by.
All right, we'll be there in a second.
I don't know, we're off the rails a little bit, but I think we can be heard.
Can you hear me?
I can't, but I think the audience
Okay.
can.
So, the fact that January 6th.
Properly. Yeah, this is just making me nuts.
Want me to hold that for you?
No, don't touch it, please. January.
People, if they would be so kind as to try to watch, say that after the first hour to maybe an hour and a half to 2.5 hours.
Trying to resolve, and somehow now it's back to it. And it would have been, rather than messing with this now while we're on air, which I hate doing, I can't hear a damn thing. I don't know. So January 6th.
Yeah, so we asked people to go and look at your wonderful 5-hour video, particularly say an hour in to maybe if you have an hour and a half to 2.5 hours, watch the center bit of it. See if you see Ray Epps, see if you see other suspicious people. Trump, you say, was talking about the fact that he had seen a lot of video. I want you to see the extent of their potential involvement or contractors to the FBI or other security agencies. It happened on January 6th. It's not working.
It's just in this mode where, unfortunately,
We'll talk
what you're
about it.
saying is important, but we're going to have to come back and talk about that later. The sound is doing the thing. Thing that keeps us in balance, and it just got knocked out of balance. So I don't know if people can hear us right now. Was 2 days ago, and definitely there's a lot more to be said, a lot more going to be happening. Subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth or odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth.